when I was in a relationship at 17 with a grown ass man. He was 34. I was 17. He was really into molding me into a woman, which at the time I thought was because he cared, since most relationships I had with adults at that time were about guiding me. And due to my lack of experience, I thought that that's what relationships look like. Hi, my name is Queen. Welcome to the Mixed Vixen channel. If you are new here, hey boo, and if you are not new here, thanks for coming through. I appreciate you. You know how many times I forgot to do that intro when I do videos? I'm gonna get better at it. Also, welcome back. I haven't been on YouTube for about a month. I took Black History Month off because I'm black and I'm not working. But I'm celebrating my history. So, back to the context of this video. The controversy over gaps in romantic relationships stems from societal norms, ethical considerations, and potential power imbalances in those relationships. Some people may even embrace and celebrate these relationships with huge age gaps, while others being me, have reservations and objections based on perceived ethical, legal, or just practical concerns. I'll be using some figures in the music industry and other celebrities to contextualize my thoughts on this. Specific to the hip hop industry, lots of the women harmed in that space was from men much older than them. In an older video that I created on this channel, I addressed the failure of the Me Too movement to the women of the hip hop industry. Check that out. The link is below, and those thoughts are still very evident. I am here again because Diddy was hit with a lawsuit from his former girlfriend and employee, keyword employee, Cassie, with several essay allegations. Some people thought that when this happened that we were going to see accountability from the men of hip hop. And I disagreed. I don't think we're ever going to see that. I don't think that'll be the case for a very long time. Even though he has been hit with other lawsuits, including one by a woman who was 17 at the time of the alleged assault, and most recently he was accused of SA by music producer Ronnie Jones Jr. This supposed takedown of Diddy, when in all actuality it has just been used to talk about a lot of the gay rumors around Puff Daddy, and also just for kicks and giggles about homophobia. Not at all about the accountability of an alleged abuser. We've obviously lost the plot. One thing that I have noticed is a pattern with him and other moguls in hip hop. Made me wonder, is there a connection between age gaps and the potential for the younger person in that relationship to be harmed? And is age really nothing but a number? I'm not a fan of drastic age gaps in romantic relationships, probably because I've been in a few. When I say a few, I mean about 5 in my life. And hopefully, by the end of this video, you will also give these kinds of relationships a rightful side eye. Before we get into that, I would like to get into today's video sponsor, and that is the Ms. Vixen's Patreon members. Become a patron for as little as $2 a month to help sustain this platform and get exclusive content. Or if you don't want another subscription and still want to donate, hit me on a Cash App or a Venmo, and do not leave this video without giving me a comment, without giving me a thumbs up, because those is free. And I love those too, so give them to me. So we start this video on the same page. When I'm talking about age gap relationships, I am talking about relationships that are 10 years and above. Those are these kinds of relationships that I will be hyper focused on for this conversation. Also, relationships between minors and grown-ass adults, okay? An age gap relationship typically refers to a serious or a casual couple dating with an age difference of at least 10 years. Though the gaps can be less, I want to reiterate that I'm mostly talking about 10 years or more, or minors and adults. Age gap relationships are relatively common and accepted in the United States. A study by ISPOS found that nearly 4 in 10 Americans have previously dated someone with an age difference of 10 or more years. It's fair to assume that anyone watching this video understands that an age gap relationship is problematic if they transpire between minors and adults, because legality dictates that and then affects the social norms of what is an acceptable relationship and what is not an acceptable relationship. Legalities also dictate what many of us believe is a consensual relationship. But when we talk about age gap relationships between two consensus adults, it gets a little murky. Those are much more commonly accepted. I think that's a pretty flawed and selfish way to think. The complexities of romantic relationships are far too vast to just sum up to, well, they're grown. Two consenting adults do not erase the complexities that come with romance. Being an adult legally does not mean all decisions you make are sound or that our hands are clean of caring about the well-being of others simply because they grown now. Some notable relationships that came to my mind when I was putting this together was Jay-Z and Beyonce, Kamora Simmons and Russell Simmons, Cassie and Diddy, Jada Pinkett Smith and August Alsina, Jay and Michelle and Jalen Green, just to name a few. Are all age gaps relationships bad? I don't know, but they all have the potential to be because classism, patriarchy, and other systems of power. There is evidence suggesting that significant age gaps in relationships can be linked to various challenges, including power dynamics and intimate partner violence. One study highlights that adolescent girls with older male partners are at a greater risk for adverse sexual health and outcomes and intimate partner violence. This is partly because significant age differences can lead to low relationship power, where one partner, typically the younger one, may have less ability to act independently, influence their partner's actions, or dominate decision making. This dynamic can contribute to intimate partner violence and unprotected sex. Age differences always create and power imbalance. The partner who is older probably got more influence over the decision-making process in that relationship, leading to a lack of autonomy for the younger partner. Power dynamics are a critical aspect to consider in age gap relationships. When there is a significant age difference, it's not uncommon for the imbalanced power dynamics to occur, where one partner may exploit, manipulate, or take advantage of the other due to age-related vulnerabilities. This imbalance can affect various aspects of the relationship, including decision-making, financial independence, and sexual autonomy. There are other factors that contribute to power imbalances in age gap relationships. So the influence on decision-making usually falls on the person who is older. Individual autonomy usually decreases for the person who is younger. Varied life experience, consent and capacity issues, financial strain and dependency, economic disparity and resource allocation, dependency and power dynamics, and financial matters. Financial matters is a reoccurring thing that I will bring up, especially when it comes to my own personal experience with age gap romantic relationships. It's a thing. We cannot discuss age gap relationships without discussing grooming. Now, grooming is not that thing that a lot of the right is talking about as far as making children queer or trans. That's not that. Grooming is when someone builds a relationship, trust, and emotional connection with a child or a young person so they can manipulate, exploit, and abuse them. Children and young people who are groomed can be sexually abused, exploited, trafficked. Those are the most extreme cases. And I want to emphasize that anybody can be a groomer regardless of gender or race. Many relationships with huge age gaps have an element of grooming in them, from the older individual to the younger one. This specifically makes me think of when I was in a relationship at 17 with a grown-ass man. He was 34. I was 17. And he was really into molding me into a woman, which at the time I thought was because he cared, since most relationships I had with adults at that time were about guiding me. And due to my lack of experience, I thought that that's what relationships looked like. I had not yet learned relationships were about equal partnership. I'll get more into my experience with age gap relationships later in this video. This is probably a biased opinion, but I believe all age gap relationships have an element of grooming in them because of the way we naturally create a hierarchy in age, where older people are more respected and seen as all-knowing, and younger people are seen as naive and needing to be taught. Ageism does feed into the power imbalance that is present in age gap romantic relationship. And it's funny because it's when I became an adult and as I get older, I realize more and more and more that adults don't know shit. I don't know why we be respecting elders. They whatever, personal. Let me just get back to what we're supposed to be talking about. When I presented some celebrity examples early in the video, a lot of them are men. A lot of them are heterosexual relationships. Age gap relationships exist throughout the spectrum of sexuality, but we hyper focus on the heterosexual ones, and I'll get into why. Me personally, I do see men who date younger women continuously as a major red flag. And that's why I chose to bring up some of those notable hip hop moguls. They're like my very basic, like just a case study done in my head, like no sound research or whatever, but they're a case study of this. And the reason why is because most of us know of these celebrities, and regardless of whether you enjoy their work or not, they set the trends most of us have followed for about 3 decades. And although dating underage girls or dating significantly younger women isn't something they created, it's embedded in patriarchy. A lot of how we relate to love and relationships is through modeling who we see around us. And that's why I think it is important for me to highlight some of these examples, specifically in the hip hop industry. Jay-Z allegedly started dating Foxy Brown when she was 14 or 15 years old, and he was about 25 years of age. He also dated Aaliyah. I believe I don't know if she was underage when she was dating him, but she was significantly younger than him. And we all know that he began dating Beyonce at 17 while he was, I believe, 31 years old. Diddy is a repeat offender. The mother of his first child, Misha Hilton, dated him while she was still in high school, and he was 24 years old. We also know about his relationship with Cassie. He began dating her when she was 19. He was 36. And we have seen the result of what happened to Cassie within that relationship. She alleged so much abuse from him, and it's just, it's gross. He was also linked to model Gina Hun, currently 31, while he's 54, during his very public relationship with Young Miami, Carisha. And he's been in a relationship with her, and she is 24 years younger than him. This is what he does. There's a pattern here. Russell Simmons was 35. Kamora Lee was 17 when she met him. There have been reports that she was younger and he waited for her to turn 17, which, allegedly, but allegedly. I chose to bring up some of these most notable moguls in hip hop to showcase a pattern. Dating underage girls, a woman, isn't something they created. It's embedded in patriarchy. Many of their relationships showcase grooming. And what makes most of these unique is most of these men are closely tied to the success of the woman they are partnered with. Wide age gaps have been associated with more frequent emotional and physical victimization and higher odds of unwanted sexual behavior. I just really want to emphasize that it is important for people in age gap relationships or considered in age gap relationships, significant age gap relationships, to be aware of these potential issues and to strive for relationships characterized by mutual respect, understanding, and equal power dynamic. My own experience with age gap relationships is what actually propelled me to do this video. And it's also why I don't think they are good. I stated earlier I was in a relationship with someone when I was 17 years old and they were 34, so I was half their age. Looking back on it, there was just so much, the power imbalance was just significant because I was in high school and this person had a full-on career, had their own place, had a car, had access to things that I could only have access to if I asked my parents. So it's very evident that being with them would create access for me and them using that as a way to kind of make the relationship go the way they want it to go. In New York, 17 does make me legal. I should not have been dating a 34-year-old man. And that grown-ass man should not have been dating me. After that, I've had a few other age gap relationships. They're all, for some reason, they all average about 10 years older than me. And all of those were with not just men, but men and women who had more life experience and also have been further in their career. So they made a lot more money than me. And that was the thing that would make these relationships harmful and not so great, because they knew I needed the access that their money provide, their capital provided, and they used that. I remember one instance where one of the men I was dating, He was supposed to buy me a cell phone. This is in college. He's supposed to buy me a cell phone. And I got upset because he didn't give me the phone I wanted. And he just got upset and threw money in my face. Or I remember another instance with this woman I was dating. She was actually about 15 years older than me. And she would get me gifts. And then if I didn't act the way she thought was pleasing to her, she'll take them back. I've also experienced emotional abuse in these age gap relationships. So I believe anybody can be manipulated by anyone, but I do think that having life experience and using the fact that we have a hierarchy with age did allow many of the people that I have huge age gap relationships with to manipulate me in ways that I don't think I would have been manipulated with partners closer in age as me with similar life experiences. Another thing that I do have to bring up, especially because I'm talking about my personal interactions with age gap relationships, is the adultification of Black girls. And the adultification of Black girls refers to the perception that Black girls are less innocent and more adult-like than their non-Black peers of the same age. And although legally I was an adult in all of these relationships, I know that I didn't look like an adult, especially when I was 17. When I was 17, people used to think I was 14. And I know that people would see me and him out about in the world and it didn't look right. But because I was a Black girl, it was okay. Or because the fullness of my body, it was okay. Or because I'm a Black girl, the fullest of my body, although I might look like I'm 14, she's actually probably mentally like 19 or 20. I know that I experienced that a lot because the adultification that we do to Black girls. Research has shown that adults view Black girls as needing less comforting, protection, and nurturing than non-Black girls, with the divide appearing as early as age 5. This bias can have detrimental effects on the mental health and development of Black girls, as it denies them the opportunity to experience a normal childhood and subjects them to unfair treatment in various settings. The adultification of Black girls can have a profound impact on romantic relationships. This bias leads to Black girls being perceived as less innocent and more adult-like than their white peers, even at a young age. As a result, Black girls may face challenges in navigating romantic relationships due to societal stereotypes and expectations. Research has also shown that Black girls are often subjected to negative stereotypes. The amount of times I was told as a girl that I was aggressive, as a teenager I was aggressive. People still tell me I'm aggressive. Hypersexual and angry. These stereotypes can influence how Black girls are viewed in romantic relationships, potentially leading to misunderstanding, unfair treatment, and pressure to conform to societal expectations. The adultification bias can also affect how Black girls are treated by authority figures, which may impact their self-perception and interactions within romantic relationships. So now I want to talk about some age gap relationships that people tend to look over, but I think they are just as alarming and harmful. And also, there are certain age gap relationships where people pay attention because particular things happen within those relationships. Cougars are older women who date younger men. I remember being younger and that being a thing and me thinking like, ooh, I'm going to be a cougar. Gross. But it's something in pop culture that is not frowned upon to see older women with younger men. Some recent notable women who have been in these cougar style relationships are Jada Pinkett Smith with August Alsina. Remember when all of that went down, when the entanglement happened? No one quite cared about the power imbalance that happened within that relationship. Everyone was into the spectacle of it. Everyone was into the fact that Jada may have cheated or that her and Will Smith were on a break. And it became a skeptical rather than caring about the younger person in the situation, the person with the least amount of power in that dynamic. This is Jada Pinkett Smith, the wife to Will Smith, who, before he slapped Chris Rock in the face, was the Hollywood darling. I don't know if that applies to men, but whatever, who gives a fuck about gender, right? No one quite cared that August Alsina in this situation could have been harmed in any kind of way, that there was probably some kind of grooming happening in this relationship. No one cared. Everyone thought that him speaking of this relationship was simply for a come up, which I don't think is fair. Another relationship that recently hit the headline, not even the relationship, I knew of this relationship for a little bit, but Dre and Michelle dating Jalen Green. She is 39. He is 22. She revealed to us on International Women's Day, an interesting day to announce your pregnancy. But she announced her pregnancy on this day. The internet has lots to say. And I think the only reason the internet actually cares about this is because there's a child involved. I think beforehand, everyone just was on some, they're grown, or she's a gold digger, not really caring for the younger person in this relationship, just really caring about gossiping. But now that there's a child involved, now people care in ways that they did not care previously, which I think has to do with how we see legalities and how legalities dictate socially how we feel about these kinds of relationships. These kinds of relationships are usually skipped over when there's an older woman with a younger man because patriarchy dictates that men has more power. So I think some people think that it's an even playing field when it's a younger man and an older woman. It is not, especially if the older woman is richer. Anytime the older person has more resources, which is usually the case, there's an imbalance in power. I think that another reason why this Drea Michelle and Jalen Green situation is different is because it is the younger person who has more capital, but it is her who has more experience with romantic relationships, with parenting, with life in general. We believe that money makes this younger person more mature because we believe money dictates virtue in that way. We also like to accept the fact that older women can still be loved because ageism says that the older women get the less value we have. These types of cougar relationships are usually applauded because it signals that older women can still be loved, can still attract people, can still have sex, but that doesn't necessarily negate the power dynamics that exist within that age gap because the male is younger in comparison to the woman. We also do not ever see women as predators in the sexual deviant sense. We generally only see women as predators in terms of being a gold digger and taking advantage of men's money. With the exception of Dre and Michelle, usually with these cougar dynamics, the woman is also rich. So she's obviously not after his money. She's probably just after that young dick. And patriarchy also leaves no room for us to care about the harm that young boys or young men could possibly receive within these power dynamics. Queer age gap relationships are hugely ignored. And I personally did not realize that until I was in a relationship with an older woman who I spoke about earlier. Another thing that made me realize that was, remember in Pose when Pray Tell had a relationship with that younger person? Remember that? I don't know why I can't remember his name. It's escaping me right now. But I was so happy to see Pray Tell find love that I had not even thought about the fact that he, I believe 40-something-year-old man, was in a relationship with a 20-something-year-old person. I didn't even digest it in that way, even though I know I do not like huge age gap relationships. I was just so happy for Pray Tell, and it wasn't until my homegirl was in a group chat like, and I'm like, shit.
Pray Tell. Pray. Is he telling the truth? Yeah.
Pray tell, house mothers and fathers never sleep with their children. It's the #1 rule in ballroom.
I'm not his father.
But you're an elder. He looks up to you like a father. All the boys in ballroom do.
It's complicated. Just like life.
And I know it's because a lot of us are just really happy to see queer love existing, especially in media. I don't think we look deeper into the nuance of that and how that is harmful, because it is so rare to see happy queer love in the mainstream thriving. A lot of us are actually scared to talk about it. And then also, there are people who still see LGBTQ queer existence as an alternative lifestyle, as a counter way to live, and see us as deviants. So who's actually going to care about the harm that can happen in age gap relationships to queer people if you don't even care about queer life to begin with. My final thoughts. Exploring age gap relationships reveals complex dynamics influenced by social norms, power imbalances, and ethical considerations. Within the context of the music industry, particularly in hip-hop, it sheds a light on concerning patterns of exploitation and abuse, raising questions about the accountability and power dynamic. I don't think all age gap relationships are inherently negative. They do possess the potential for harm. And the harm generally is significant for the person who is younger. It's more significant for the person who has less money. And it's also more significant when there is clear power differentials and grooming behavior within that dynamic. I'm hoping that today's conversation helps underscore the importance of recognizing and addressing power imbalances, grooming tactics, and societal biases. Men who exclusively pursue relationships with significantly younger partners often perpetuate patriarchal norms and contribute to unequal power dynamics, which can lead to exploitation and harm. I do think that these power dynamics in relationships, specifically to Black girls, are a result of the adultification of us and societal stereotypes about Black girls and Black young women. We are seen as hypersexual. We are innately gold diggers. All of those things makes the care that we receive either while in these age gap relationships or leaving these age gap relationships almost non-existent. There needs to be a nuanced understanding and support for anyone who needs it, who has been in a huge age gap relationship that resulted in harm. We should open our minds more and understand that age gap relationships extend beyond traditional heterosexual dynamics. Include Cougars in our conversation. Queer relationships. Each dynamic presents unique challenges and considerations that need thoughtful examination and discourse. There's no way to prove that all age gap relationships are harmful, but I do think that within all of them with significant age differences, an increase in power imbalances is a given. There's no way to escape the power imbalances that age differences cause. And there is a link to intimate partner violence and these age gap relationships. Choosing a compatible partner where there's reciprocal care, love, and responsibility is ideal. I don't particularly give relationship advice because different things work for different people, but I always insist on doing what feels the safest. I don't know what older person told me this, probably my mom or my grandmother, so I always carry this with me. Relationships should add to your life, not drain from it. My personal experiences have made me believe there is no way to be in an age gap relationship with a cis man without damaging harm existing. Patriarchy just makes it impossible. I have made it so that I'm thinking broader and I'm thinking about queer people in these dynamics. I don't think they're safe. But if you think I'm wrong, hit me up in the comments. I would like to know your thoughts on the matter. So those are my thoughts. Thank you if you made it to the end of the video. I appreciate you. I can't think of an emoji. So just put whatever favorite emoji you want to put in the comment box so I know you made it to the end. Thank you for all of my patrons. I really, really appreciate you. And remember, you are enough. You are a bad bitch. And I will see you in the next video. Okay. Let's get it started. All right, everything good to go. Let's get it.